In this video, I'm going to teach Adam Savage here how to measure a photograph accurately, because I've just seen a video where he tried to do it and he balls it up big time. So, Adam, this one's for you. You'll have to bear with me at the moment. I'm doing this pretty much in an ad hoc way. I'm just making it up as I go along. And anyway, today, in fact this afternoon, this video popped up in my feed. It's Adam Savage's one-day build, Luke Skywalker's lightsaber. And in this, he found this idea of replicating Luke Skywalker's saber from Return of the Jedi, I think it was, as a one-day build. Anyway, this is how it went. So,
good morning. Well, or good whatever time of day it is for you where you happen to be right now.
And in my case, good afternoon. So anyway, just going to turn it down. So anyway, he's talking about this project. He says he's going to... There's a lightsaber he built years ago, built from photographs, basically. So he wanted to show the practice of how he did it. So he goes over, looks on the internet, finds some pictures, selects one, and basically builds it. And there's the picture. And that's what he used as his reference. And he's going to show you how you measure a photograph. Anyway, so as he was carrying on doing this, he said a few things that I thought were, I don't want to say inconsistent, but weren't quite right. So let me just... Oh, here he is talking about mathematics. It's how to scale up and down a size. So if you know an absolute measurement, so say something's 10 inches long, but your image is smaller, it's how to times up and down between the pair of them. I mean, that's fairly straightforward, very basic stuff. So in his case, it's a 10-inch printout that he's got, and he needs it to be 11 3/4 inches. So basically, he just times it up. You know, you don't need the maths. It's very obvious how you do it. I mean, school kids do this. So, I mean, you know, he's telling you how to do it. You know, you may not know how to do it. So anyway, let's skip forward a bit. And he's got his chunk of 2-inch diameter aluminium, I think it is, aircraft grade, and he's going to turn it. And, you know, he's pretty happy. He's starting to already look at his image, and he's starting to wonder how he's going to do it. But he starts to make some real schoolboy errors about where to measure things. Let's just go ahead. So, yep, he's making his thoughts on that. So he's over to the machine, so we can skip all this. But all the way through it, he does make some real errors. And, you know, kudos to him for talking about them and showing them. I mean, that is fantastic. That's what we all should be doing. However, let's just get to the end. So here he just realises that it's all gone pear-shaped. And he starts talking about photographs. Hang on, let's just find that. There we are. Let's just see.
Photograph, which, again, because of lens distortion...
Okay, lens distortion is true. It does distort the image. Let's see what he says.
Right? It's a flat object photographed by a spherical lens, so you're getting this kind of wrap here, and that means that all sorts of dimensions change.
That's not true. That is not true. Yes, things do distort in the lens, because obviously a lens is spherical. So we know from this photograph here, the camera is going to be dead centre. So anything in that centre area there will be more or less straight. As you go that way, things will start to curve that way, and as you go that way, it curves like that. And you can see it. Look, there's the pommel down there curving that way, and here's the emitter end curving this way. But there are ways to get around that, and I'll show you that in a minute. So anyway, he points out what he was doing.
Even from here to here, this is only a few inches, 4 or 5 inches, and yet dimensions can change.
No, they don't. They do not change. It's the angle you're looking at it changes, but like I said, you can compensate for that. So let's just skip forward a bit.
Let's take this all the way to its end. Okay. Hoping to have got... I'd say... I have a shelf full of... And that was what these among us are just going to have to let this one lie. Okay, so let's cut off this tip. And we...
Basically what he's saying here is, at the end of the day, his measurements were really far out. The thing he built over the course of maybe 1 or 2 days, I don't know how long this one-day build actually was, it ended up being 3/4 of an inch too long. And for those of us who speak English, that's 19mm. So, what's wrong with that? What happened? Well, I'll show you. I'll show you exactly what he did. Now, again, bear with me on this. This is rough and ready. So I went to Google, I found the exact image that he used, And this looks like it's burning out, this white area, but you'll have to forgive that for now. Actually, let me just see if I can take that down a bit. There we go. So, this is the image that he found, and yeah, you can see, let me just zoom in and out a bit. So yeah, you can see perspective going on here. Okay, you can see it bending. Let's just take it over to here. So the centre here, you'll notice that the lines are fairly straight. Okay, fairly straight. So we know the centre of the lens was about there. And then you come over to this side, oops, you come over to this side and you can see it curving. So you can actually see the underside here of this flat bit, and it becomes really pronounced when you get over to here. So again, you can see lots of the underside, and that's just basically where he's getting his measurements wrong. I don't quite know how he measured it, but I think he was measuring... Well, let me just zoom out a bit. I think what he was doing... Whoops. No, just pressed the wrong button. I think what he was doing was measuring along here, along this face, you know, down the centre line. Now, yes, you can do that, but you are going to run into a world of pain. What you really want to do is measure down the centre line of the cylinder. Now, no, I can't show you with that. Let's take my trusty Superman mug here. What I mean by the centre line, I'm not talking about this centre line here. I'm talking about this one here. Now, in perspective, look at that. So anything along in terms of height, that's fairly straightforward. It doesn't really suffer. I mean, it does if it's very exaggerated, but for something like a long cylinder, you can pretty much get away with it. So you can sit there and measure all of these once you've got your scaling right, that is, and your numbers will be consistent. However, when you've got something on an angle, which this is not quite as much as this, but when you've got something on an angle, you're going to start reading beyond that centre line. And if you start taking measurements in the wrong place, i.e. even though it's on a two-dimensional space here, and this is a three-dimensional object, just as that is, but it's in two-dimensional space, what you're going to do is start getting wrong dimensions. So you can't measure, say, from here or here. You have to measure down from that point to that point. Now let me just take you back over to here, over to this monitor. So let's zoom in a bit on this bit here. And we'll just bring that over. Shush your noise. So, what do you measure? Well, you can't measure this distance from here to here. You have to measure it from that point there to that point there. However, on the outline, it appears to stop there, but it doesn't. You know, just where this bit and this bit intersect, that's not where they intersect. Because again, you've got perspective there. What you want to do is take it on the centre line. Remember this? The centre line. So it would be here. Just there. Now, I've already done something. I've already measured this up. Let me just show you something. What's the command for it? It's Control and H. Control and H. Hopefully you can see all this. But all these vertical lines here are going through what is the centre line. So what you would do is if you want to measure the length of this bit, you measure from this line here to this line here. You can measure from here to here and that would be consistent. So you can do it all the way down this. So let me just take it back out again. So this is meant to be 11 3/4 inches long. Let me just take that to that. I'm not going to print it out because I can't be bothered. So let me just do that for you. I'm going to take it to 11 3/4 inches long. Now again, measuring the screen is a very silly thing to do, but for the purposes of this, I'm going to start from 1, so it'll come out as 12 3/4, but that's 11 3/4 because we're taking off the inch. So if I take my first measurement being on the first line here, and I measure from there to the end, oh look at that, 11 3/4. I mean it says 12 3/4, but it's actually 11 3/4 because of that extra inch on the front. So there you are. You don't measure this bit here, or this bit here, you measure over here. So let me just demonstrate how this does work. The other thing also, by the way, is absolutes. There's your absolute measurement, which is 11 3/4 inches, but then you need subdivisions. Now, let me just show you. Let's measure this section here. Now there's a beveled piece here. You don't measure beyond the bevel, i.e. this side of the bevel, from there to there. You measure including the bevel, so what's that? So that's 1 3/4 inches. Come to the next section. We're not going to measure from here to here. We're going to measure from here to this line here. Why do we do that? Because this is a cut-in. This is added in afterwards. So that measurement from that line there to this line here is 1 1/2 inches. The cut-in, now we can measure that, is, I can't see, 1, 2, 3, 3/16. The height of it is 1 5/8. That is, I think 1 5/8 as well. If we come over to here, we measure top to bottom, 1 1/2 inches. And we can keep going all the way along. But look at this. Again, this is a huge piece made up of lots of little details. You could sit there and measure all these pieces, but the first thing you should do is measure from that point to that point, and that comes out at 3 1/4 inches exactly. If you want to measure out this, I would highly recommend measuring the midway points between each piece. Now this looks handmade and it doesn't look exactly equal, but let's have a quick look. That is about 1, 2, 3, 3/8 between there, 3/8 between there. Yep, 3/8. It seems consistent, so you know that the centre between these are 3/8. The top there looks to be 1/8. 1/8. 1/8. Yeah. So that's how I would do it. Measure it in absolutes, so your end-to-end piece, and then you break each section down. I mean, let's just go and have a look at this little bit here. Oh, by the way, speaking of this section here, Adam, you should have done geometry as Squire. I'm going to assume you did. At the very beginning of your video, excuse me, at the very beginning of your video, you said there are 8 pieces here, 8 little nodules. There can't be. You can see 4. You see 1 at the top, 1 at the bottom, and 2 in the middle. That means there's 6. Because 1 add 1 is 2, 3, 4, and then on the other side, 5, 6. If there were 8, you'd see 1 at the top, 1 down here, and 3 in the middle, which is 5. I'm sure you're following along. And then on the other side, because there's 3 here, you would see, or you would add those 3 on, which is 8. So anyway, I knew right from the moment you said right at the beginning of your video that there were 8 that you were going to bugger this bit up. You should have checked that. I mean, that was a schoolboy error. So anyway, basic geometry, think of it like a hexagon. If you can see 4 bits, top, bottom, and 2 in the middle, that means it has 6 sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So anyway, there's that. What else can I tell you? Yeah, essentially, oh yeah, I was going to measure this, wasn't I? So look, just to prove a point, we're going to measure the centre line, and that is 3/4 of an inch by 1/4 of an inch tall. So, oh, and in terms of calculating this, that's for another video, not this one. This has a new scale. You cannot scale anything along this outer line. Think of it like the outline, the silhouette. You can't mix the measurements from out here with measurements from in here. I mean, even here, I'm going to do it in millimetres, just to show you. That is 2 millimetres. But up here, it looks to be close to 3 millimetres, because obviously this section here is closer to us than that section there at the top. So, you've got to remember, you talked about parallaxing, it's basically, it's perspective. Things in the distance are going to be smaller than things in the foreground, so never mix your measurements from up here with measurements along there. I mean, I could show you how to do this, but not for this video. But there you are. So let me just show you. I'm going to take my measurement again. So it is 11 3/4 inches. From there to there is 5 1/2 inches. From there to there, 5 1/2 inches. 3 1/4. And 3 1/8 from there to there. Star Wars fans, those who know lightsabers, I don't know a thing about lightsabers. This is pretty much the first time ever that I've ever measured one. I don't know if I'm completely accurate, but I am accurate to this picture. You know, given the fact that this is 11 3/4 inches. I mean, just as an example, let's have a look at this little bit here. That looks to be about, could be 5/8. Can't really see, it's getting a bit dark. That's 3/4 of an inch wide. What's that? That's 1 1/4. What's this? Just a hair under, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4. Hang on, I can't see. It's a smidgen under 1.5 inches in diameter. I mean, that there's probably just over 1.5. Yeah. I can't be bothered to sit there and measure it all, but that's how I measure stuff. So if you want to measure photographs, be aware. Stuff in the distance, stuff in the foreground are going to be 2 different scales. Pick your area that you're going to use to measure, and for me it's always down that centre line. And that centre line is, you follow from the middle up and then along your image, and then it all just falls into place. So I hope I've explained it relatively well. If not, sorry about that. I could probably explain a bit more in the comments if people want to know about it. But that, I think we've been recording for about 17 minutes. That there is a very easy, I mean it's just a tube, but it's a very easy prop to replicate from one photograph. But I hope it's been useful. Adam, if you're watching, don't take what I'm saying to heart. I'm not having a dig. I respect you as a builder. You know, sometimes, you know, look, we all make mistakes, and if you've learned something from this, fantastic. If other viewers, other, you know, my subscribers, if you've learned something, brilliant. But that is how you measure from a photograph properly. Thanks for watching. I'll speak to you again soon.